You know what? Was my mic on the whole time? It could be. Possibly. Hello. What's up, everybody? Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Great timing for my gardeners. Awesome. Anyways, it's been a while. It's been a little while since I've been on last. I hope everybody's doing well out there in this crazy world. Hey! Today we are continuing on our demon zombie lady craziness. We started on her quite a while ago. Well, not really. Well, in actual time, quite a while. Um, Sounds low. Doing great. Excellent. You guys can hear me? That's good. Audio's okay? Yes. Just. Yeah. Anyways, this is what we've been working on for the last handful of streams. Um, and if you would like to go back and check out the progress that we have made in some of the older stuff, you can go to zbrushlive.com, find my artist page there, Brennan Isaiah Bengtson, and you can go back and watch some of the previous streams if you'd like to see how we got here. But this is what we've been working on so far. Um, Lots of fun stuff. Way far to go though. Lots and lots of stuff to do. So today I'm gonna try to block out just some shapes for the chair and the background of the chair, and we'll try to do that. Okay, let's do it. I'm thinking maybe possibly some kind of shapes like this. Ooh. That'd be kind of cool. So we're thinking some bony hand shapes. So I'm gonna start blocking out a couple finger bones here. We'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. All right. I'm just going to append this guy in, and we're just gonna pull that over here. We'll just get something resembling a finger bone. Sure. That feels good. Side! What's up, buddy? How you doing, man? Okay. And then from there, we're going to see where my Dynamesh is. Dynamesh 128 is fairly high, so we're going to go down to, say, 56. We'll see what that looks like. That's better. Better for now. Alright, let's just start shaping. See where we're at. We're going to do local symmetry here. There we go. Sometimes local symmetry, you have to like click on and or off the object and then turn it on and then turn it off if you change some of this. This is visible symmetry. This is local symmetry. Those can be found in transform, local symmetry, and visual symmetry. Yeah. So let's just do some shaping. You know what? I think maybe what we could do too is do symmetry. Yeah, it's fine. Nice course. Okay, we've got something like this. How do you come up with character ideas? It's a very good question. It's a very loaded question as well too. um, it's this is actually one of my practices into character design. Most of my work has been character production work. And so as a character artist, you tend to take other people's concepts and kind of make them work, you know. Um, so some of the experience that I've lacked personally in my career has been doing actual concepts. So this is an attempt for me to just try to do a little bit more concepty stuff. Um, let's see, let's do that. Are we gonna want to place these guys bone by bone? I really don't want to place these guys bone by bone, so I think I'm gonna connect them. So instead of making this one, placing it, making this one, placing it, so on and so forth, and then doing that for each one of however many I want to do, I think I'm just gonna connect them all, since it's gonna be mostly a sculpt anyways. That's what I'm gonna do. And then you know what? I'm not gonna say cheat, but I'm going to silhouette. Yeah, silhouette. There's a couple of things that I really want to focus on when you're doing character design. Is the overall theme obviously is an important one, um, but also uh, the rhythm and like the designs that you're using. You know, the language of the shapes that you're using in there. When you work in your personal work, do you care less about correct topology since it won't be used in production? Um, when I'm streaming, I try to have good stuff because I'm mostly just showing because I'm showing it. Uh, but let's just let's just create one long finger here, and then but usually for my own work, I try to have decent topology, but like when it comes down to the minutia stuff, I don't really care too much. Let's turn on X again. Okay, so then we're going to use see-through. I love see-through, by the way. Let's hide that guy. See-through is one of my favorite things in the world. I use this quite a bit and actually in production too. So this is just, I'm just going to be using this for, actually, you know what, let's do the full thing here. The full height. Height. I'm just going to get the overall proportions down. Okay, we'll do that. Um, by the way, I go into tangents quite a bit, so if I start answering a question and I don't get back to it, definitely feel free to either ask it again or however. Um, so design, um, you know, this time around, I'm really trying to focus on um, the design aspect and practicing, you know, what it takes, what makes a good design. Um, what works, what doesn't, you know, when do you think about silhouette versus you know, repetition of design, you know, just trying to get those basic ideas down. So in this project is in particular is me trying to do a little bit more kind of the raw design stuff than actual production work. Production work I can do. That's no problem. Good page for image reference. Depends on what references you're talking about, really. This is a finger bone. So the basic idea is I'm going to create something back here. Um, let's turn off symmetry real quick. Here's the basic idea. I'm going to use this as some kind of backdrop, right? And it'll be kind of like hands up. You know what? I don't have my actual cam on. You guys can't see me. That's a good thing. Let me grab my webcam real quick. Webcam. Oh, that's why. It's not plugged into my computer. Nice. I used Marvelous Designer for the cloth. Yes, I did. I used Marvelous Designer just for a super quick block out of those folds. My webcam is not on. We may do. Oh, yep, there we go. Hey, here I am. Hello. Um, but anyways, so yeah, we'll curl these around a little bit and kind of make this whole like, you know, it's kind of like sitting in the palm, right? And you can see the fingers behind. That's the basic idea. There I am. More of a technical ZBrush question. Do you know if ZBrush has the ability to move topology while constrained to surface silhouette? Are you talking about like moving topology but having it like projected to another mesh? Quicks? If so, um, immediately no. There's no way to do that. But what you could do is move the topology and then just reproject um, to whatever you have underneath. I'm just gonna get just a little bit of kind of shape through here. All right, so then now what we'll do is I'm just gonna grab these guys. That, we'll flip it, and then we'll just kind of rotate like this. Again, this is all really crude, but I just kind of want to get the shape in there. Just to start playing around with the actual shape here. The other thing you could do too, I always do this, is you hold down Alt as well, and it will mask everything except for what you select, which is really helpful. I added that a couple years ago. Kind of looks like sausages at the moment, but everything has to go through, as Ryan Kinsling would say, the Valley of the Suck. Everything goes through a period where it looks terrible. Alright, so how do you position the gizmos before making a change in the finger? So if you hold down Alt, you see it unlocks this here. So if you hold Alt, then you can move, and then when you let go of it, then it will actually move the thing. So I tend to just hit Alt real quick, move it where I need to, and then let go of Alt and rotate. Let's see. So let's just start blocking this just to see what it looks like. Could look terrible. It could look terrible, and usually does before you start kind of like getting into it. So, all right, so all of this is one polygroup. So I can easily just do Control Alt, grab, and move it like this, and that will duplicate it. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Okay. We'll grab another one. Rotate that guy around. And then what I want to do is I want to pull this guy in just a little bit, just so there's a little bit different shape. Does Ryan still do? Yeah, he still. I'm sure he still works in ZBrush. Not for ZBrush, but I'm sure he still works in ZBrush, doing personal work. Sure he does. Okay. So then let's grab, what does our thumb look like? Let's do this. I'm doing it from the other side, so I'm going to take this and flip horizontally. There we go. Now I got the shape that I want. By the way, this is Quadro. Great little program that's free. Yay. Okay, so just do something like that on the see-through. Right, and then I'm just going to do Control Alt again, pull this guy over. And then I'm just going to get him into position, and then we'll just sculpt it up real quick. So where does the thumb come out of? Somewhere like this. Okay. We got an extra one, so let's hide. All right, I got my select. We're just going to hide that. We're going to do delete hidden and then redynamesh. Redynamesh. Redynamesh? That's weird. What we'll do maybe it's just trying to redynamesh this since these were just duplicates. So let's do auto groups real quick and then do it. There we go. See, it's all about what happens live, man. Yeah, I mean the nice thing is that you can really quickly iterate on this kind of stuff. And the nice thing about having different groups now, let's do auto groups again, and now I can just control click on each one of these, and because they're different group, those should be different groups. Why are those not different groups? Auto groups, auto groups. That's weird. Oh, they're connected. That's why. I don't want them connected. I don't care right now though. Whatever. So control click, and that will mask everything except for the polygroup that you clicked on, which is awesome. And then what I'm going to do is I'll do alt click to move that up here, and then an old trick that we used to use when we had the old transpose is if you hold down alt and click and drag, it will orientate based on where you started and where you ended that point. So now I have it in that orientation, unlock it, move it around a little bit, and I can pretty quickly get it into that orientation that I want. What is Quadro? Did I say Quadro? I don't know what I don't know what I was saying if I said Quadro. Okay, so this has got to come up this way just a little bit. Um, so we'll do something like that, and then what we need to do is we need to change the shape just a little bit of these pieces. So we'll just get in here and we'll just do some shape changing. Actually, you know what? It's actually rotated the other way. Usually when you do this, um, the actual rotation, this rotation is different than these ones. So let's do that real quick. Let's go like that. Oh, Quadro. Yes, sorry. Uh, the reference. Uh, Quadro. Quadro. Yes. Quadro. Quadro. Just do a quick search for that. I think it's actually Michael Pavlovich's buddy who makes that. I don't know who he is. I know Pavlovich. I just don't know who his buddy is. All right. So let's just grab and kind of move this stuff around just a little bit. Yes, pure ref. Yeah, it's very similar to pure ref. Some people prefer pure ref. Some people prefer Purell. Uh, tomato, tomato. Okay, so what if we got this? We just got the basic idea. It looks very sausage-alike at the moment, but at least we have some kind of idea where we can start kind of placing this and kind of getting an idea of what is it, what is this thing, right? And then what if I feel like in a lot of the concept areas you do a lot of what ifs. What if what if what if we just made this thing super dope, you know? What if, I'm just gonna go crazy. Just say what if we made it super dope? Not like awesome dope, but like super dope. What if? So maybe this stuff, we're gonna expand the overall presence of this. But it's all about the final presentation, right? So what does the final presentation do? Um, and I've learned the hard way over many years that it doesn't 100% matter on the technicality of your sculpt or of your character, but it's it's literally all about the final presentation. And if you can't nail that, like, it doesn't look good, then it doesn't look good. You know what I mean? So it's really about making sure that you have a good presentation. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't work. The important thing is that you don't give up too quickly, um, mostly because you kind of live in this whole, everything sucks for a while place. So sometimes it takes a while to for things to come to fruition. But if the basic idea is there, then cool. Feel like maybe the fingers are too long. Save it. Yeah, that could be something cool too, Croesus. Oh. One of the things that I'm trying to pay attention to, it looks comfy, yeah, is what do the elements of this character's outfit and pose and overall persona say about their personality? Like, what kind of person is this? Because, right, we don't when you're kind of developing a character, you don't get a chance to, talk to them or get to know them over a certain period of time. Really, the only thing that you know about this particular character is from the visual story that it tells, right? So in this particular character, she's kind of Queen of the Damned, very kind of not I wouldn't say hoity-toity, but like regal and manipulative. She's she's a string puller, So like I have like all of these things that I kind of want to portray in her outfit and her stance and her like overall um, presentation to show what kind of person she is. So I I kind of jump onto an idea. So my first idea with this character was like, oh, I want to do some kind of like you know shadowy, evil goddess kind of idea. And then it started kind of blooming out and blooming out, and I was like, yeah, well, what if she like, is really a string puller or a puppeteer kind of thing, or like she doesn't really do stuff herself, but she just has other people do evil stuff for her. You know what I mean? So like, then you start getting into like, well, how do you portray that um, in shapes and images? We have lots of dangly things, right? Like all these types of dangly things. There's all these different plots happening that she has intertwined with different elements around her. So you can start putting uh, those elements of a characteristic into um, visual elements that go along with that. When you look at shapeology in what makes a cartoony, bubbly character seem innocent. Lots of round curves and lots of like very big kind of like round shapes, right? But if you look at villains, something that's scary, something that's aggressive, you have angles, right? Triangles and all these like spikes and stuff like that. So just understanding what shapes uh, kind of make you feel a certain way, and then leveraging that in different and creative ways is a really cool way to share visual story. When you work in production, how much time are you given to explore ideas? Usually in character production, it's little to zero because you're usually working from somebody else's concept, and they do all of this idea kind of making at this in their department. So usually in character artist, especially for video games, it's more about taking um, somebody else's idea and creating the actual piece, right? So you don't really don't you get to embellish a little bit, kind of like here and there, just in the same lines of what the concept is trying to explain, um, but usually don't really have a whole lot of room, and that's kind of like why I enjoy doing this type of work in my personal time, is because I don't really get to do a whole lot of craziness or like my own things in this vein. So it's fun. So I'm gonna duplicate this guy and I'm gonna redo this. When you work on somebody else's, let me wait, hold up. The toad you're sculpting looks like a villain. It's interesting when you start looking into let's do deleted and let's do Dynamesh real quick. Um, when you start thinking about shapes and kind of what they mean and how they read and stuff, and then realizing why a certain character feels the way that they do based on the shapes that make them. It's so cool. Like if you look at cartoons, cartoons do it really really well. Like you look at some of the design for, say like Hercules, the the animated Hercules, and you look at Hades. Hades has a very very angular, like everything is super angular. It's crazy. Um, but then you just it's cool because you get to see it starts opening up a lot of things. You're like, oh, that's why. And then you kind of like look at your kids and you're like, why is it scary to them? And you look at the thing that's on the screen. You're like, oh, there's like lots of angles and it's dark and you know it's really really it's cool. I kind of geek out about that kind of stuff. But all right, let's see what this idea is doing. I don't like it too much, honestly. I don't like it too much at the moment. We'll see. What if we put some stairs underneath her, though? There's some other questions. What was the first thing? That was the first thing I noticed too. The chain sculpts. The chain sculpts they're just curve brushes. They're really really easy to do. I kind of go over this in the previous episodes, but I'll show you just really quick. So, let's go into brushes. I'm not sure if everybody has this. I was part of the beta tester team back in 2019, so I'm not sure if everybody has this one. But in beta tester brushes, there's this insert omni chain. That's the one I used for all of these, and it's basically just a brush. So the big question is, like, oh man, like how do you get all of these different like movements and you know things crossing each other? It's a really simple tactic that I use quite a bit. It was just using a plane to draw on. Let's see if I can find it. Did I save it? Save it. I don't think I saved it. So what I do is I usually just grab a plane 3D, and then I'll take this dude, and then I'll just rotate him into position. Where do I want the beginning and where do I want the end? Say, well, I want the beginning, like, say here, and then, that part right there is good. So all I have to do is just draw it right on there, and then it will stick to that orientation, right? And then I just kind of rotate it however I want. So, like, oh, I want another one that goes from here, and then I can even move this, and I want that to go all the way out here, and then I just draw another one on there. And then I did the same thing for these ones. I just moved the plane back like this, whoop, just like that. And I just drew a couple on there. And then afterwards, I kind of moved everything around a little bit. But that's how I usually do those type of kind of three-dimensional um, thingamajigs. I've used that one quite a bit. Okay, so let's grab this dude. Let's just make him. We'll do split on mask points. Grab this dude, and then maybe we'll just start to make some stairs or something, some steppy steps, some steppity steppers. Okay, maybe we got something like that. I don't know. I don't really do background stuff very well. I do characters, but I have such a hard time doing like rocks and any kind of environment stuff. I hate it. Split unmasked. Then let's just make. Oops. Let's grab this guy. We're just gonna make something that she's sitting on just to ground her a little bit better. Maybe what we'll do for this one is, I feel like this question's going by that I'm not grabbing. Um, Gonna ask how do you create meshes like drawing? Um, that's kind of a that's kind of a tough question. I don't know how to answer that one. Did you pose it, then sculpt, or sculpted then posed it? Um, I started with a symmetrical pose. So she had both legs up like this, I think, and then both arms were the same. So I posed it symmetrically, and then I just changed things just ever so slightly. Usually in a lot of my personal stuff, I do kind of like, let me show you this real quick, like, just gonna grab my website real quick. So this guy, right? This guy is like, oh, whoa, dude, like that's crazy. How did you do this like asymmetrical craziness? You're like, actually, the only thing asymmetrical about this guy is his head and the little pipes that come off of here. That's the only thing that's asymmetrical. So like sometimes when I'm doing my personal stuff, you can get away with just changing one or two little things in asymmetry, and the whole thing gives this asymmetrical feel to it. Um, like this one, the pose is the same, but like you know pieces on this side are different from pieces on this side. Like this one's the same as this one, this one's the same as this one, this is the same as this one, but all of this in here, all this visual information, this is all different on both sides. So if you like really carefully pick the things that are asymmetrical, it gives it an asymmetric essence. You know what I mean? Um, so just by picking a couple of little things, you can make the overall thing feel asymmetrical. So that's tip kind of what I do. So in this particular case, this leg is changed a little bit. I actually moved the torso or the hips over just a little bit, just to kind of do it. But you know, from the elbow to elbow, this is all symmetrical. And the hands actually are symmetrical. Not right now, but I haven't changed the position of the fingers. So it's all I did was rotate the elbow, and then rotate this down a little bit. So even with just some like super small and very planned out asymmetrical parts, you can get there really quickly. Which is cool because if you need to take this, when you decide, oh, this is pretty cool, I want to take it into production, there's very little work to kind of get it back to a symmetrical pose. Like very little work. How was I doing? This piece. Oh yeah. Oh yes. I remember now. There I was, doing work, and then I got distracted. That's okay. I'm here to answer questions and show stuff. Maybe instead of doing that, maybe what I'll do is I'll make. So there's a couple of really basic art elements that I try to do consistently, kind of across the board. One of those is small, medium, large shapes. Frequency of detail, and small, medium, large shapes. Um, if even if you just pay attention to that, and you do a couple of sculpts, and you do a couple projects, it's amazing how much more organic your work feels. So in this particular case, I'm saying, okay, well, we got a small shape here, medium shape, big shape, right? That's cool, but it's kind of similar, right? So like if I did this, right? So now it's not just from one angle, small, medium, large. It's multiple angles. So like, okay, now uh this one's medium, this one's large, this one's medium. Okay, it could be better, right? So what if we make this one like super small? All right, we'll just do something like that, right? Make that one small, and then you do maybe this one's large. So we'll do well. And it's also cool, like maybe it's different from different angles, right? You're like this one's small, medium, large, but when you change the angle, this one's a medium, that one's a small, and maybe this one should be the small. Right? So like it's different elements of the small, medium, large depending on where you're looking at it. How do you get into the video game industry without AAA working experience? It's very easy, but very difficult. Ready for this? It's gonna blow your mind. Have a dope portfolio. That's all I need. You don't need experience. It helps to have experience, but if you have a super dope um, portfolio, that's a majority of your work. Majority of the work's done. That said, it's not easy to make a super dope uh, portfolio. So like, okay, maybe this one then should be large, right? So now we got small, which is medium from this side, medium, which is large from this side, and then large, which is small from this side. So it's kind of got this. It helps with this the kind of like organicness. and natural feels. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't do rocks. I hate rocks. I hate doing rocks. Yeah, we'll just try to kind of break that stuff up. You can take a look at mine if you'd like. It's just bengtsondesigns.com. You can take a look at my portfolio. Um, the most important thing to remember when you are trying to get a job, and I learned this the hard way, is that it's no's aren't no, you you suck and you're terrible and why would you ever want to try to work in this industry. Um, no's are uh, not right now, right? It We have a certain fit that we're looking for right now, and if it's a no, it just means that it's not a right fit for you at the moment. It doesn't mean that, you know, 6 months or a year or 2 years later that you would be the right fit at that moment, you know? So the important thing is that you keep going and you keep getting better, and you keep practicing and you're updating your portfolio and you're active in the industry. You're active in the what do you call it? Not social media, but you're just active in the community. You know, that helps a lot. All right, how do I feel about this? It has some potential, but I think it has a long way to go. Maybe just try varying up some of these shapes in here. Maybe it's just because they all feel too similar. That could be one of the reasons. Could be that the shapes are just terrible. It's just very true. Very possible. And also true. Um, what else? What else we got? Yes. What I mean by having a good portfolio, specifically for the game industry, if you are looking to be a character artist in the game industry, you need to show um, everything. You show good examples of good art for all the things that you expected to be doing, right? Topology. How well can you um, interpret a 2D design into a 3D model? Um, what does your topology look like? Are you making good animation choices for what animators need to be able to do? Like, are how many texture sets are you using? Right? Are you aware of draw calls in the engine? Like, are you using all 4K textures? Are you using some 2Ks or some 1Ks, or how are you setting up all of your materials? How do they look in game? What methodology are you using for your materials? Are you still using spec gloss? Are you using metal rough? What are you rendering in? Are you just showing sculpts, or are you showing high res and in-game um, renders in Marmoset? Uh, how good do your bakes look? What are some of the other things? Are you showing your texture maps? Are you showing what your roughness maps look like? There's a ton of things, right? So what I've always done is I've tried to put myself in the shoes of the hiring person, right? So the hiring person says, "Ah, oh, man, all right, I gotta find somebody to fill this rec, right?" Now, depending on um, if you are a recruiter or not, this may or may not be your job, you know. So if it's not a recruiter, then the person may be like, I just want to find the right person and kind of get back to work, you know. Uh, but you got to kind of think of what they want to do, like they don't want to just search forever, right? So they want an answer to their need. Um, so how can you be that answer? You know, you basically need to be able to do the job that the people that are already doing there, which is tough as a new person, um, or even somebody who doesn't have any experience with the engine uh, that studio is using, which is typical. That's actually very typical because a lot of the big AAA companies have their own engines, So I think as long as you're showing that you have the knowledge, then the technical aspect of those types of things are fairly easily taught. So they're not too worried about that. So the big thing is how can you be the answer to their need? You know. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling now. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah, the bones are real flimsy. They don't look anywhere near like what I want them. But it's just whenever you put down some stuff, it always looks terrible to start off with. So these bones are usually straight and not bendy like this. All right, so let's try to make them a little bit straighter. So yeah, I mean it's important not to give up on ideas right away. Like you can kind of get the idea in and then see if it's worth pursuing. Um, but don't give up too soon. Also, don't spend too much time on it if it does suck. uh, oh, good, Jordan. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, there's a lot of great artists that stream on this channel. It's definitely an honor to be among them. What's that quote? If you're gonna fail, fail fast and fail hard. So you don't spend too much time on a failure. But on the flip side of that, failures are where you learn, right? Usually by the time you figure something out, you've found 4 or 5 different ways how not to do it. At least that's what I've found in my experiences. Anyways, so we'll see if this is actually gonna work or not. I probably will spend, maybe 10, 15 minutes on something like this. If it doesn't work, um, especially if I don't have another idea. if I'm like, I don't really have another idea for this one, so I'm just gonna keep trying to do this. If it works, awesome. If not, well, then we'll skip to something else. That also happens quite a bit. At least for me, I kind of bounce around a lot. It's really about kind of like how you're able to visualize things in your brain. If you can visualize the route on how to get somewhere, then it's much easier to actually do it. But if you can't visualize it and you're like, I can't see it, then it's a little bit tougher, a little bit more tougher. Yeah. So the knowledge of topology and stuff, yeah, like 100%. You definitely need to be able to show that, because I mean, ultimately, you're being hired to do a job, and if you can't show that you you don't know what the job entails or that you can't necessarily do the job, then they may not want to hire you. That mixed with making sure that it's the right place at the right time. I've had a lot of no's in my early career. Lots of no's. You guys want to take a guess on how many reject letters I got from the time I started uh, really kind of getting into wanting to do character art um, as a career and like really trying, and when I landed my first real gig. Yeah, Croesus. I work for I'm lead character artist at Crystal Dynamics right now. One of the leads. We have two leads. Another guy who has been there for 17 years. We are working on Marvel's Avengers at the moment. That has been a pretty crazy journey. Right, starting to feel a little more like Bones now. Same with 2D art. Job description is 2D Illustrator. Job description says you must know how to animate and create UI. A lot of job descriptions for 3D character art are very intimidating. AAA experience aside, some require you to know how to rig, skin, and animate. I think they're asking too much. Yeah, I think being a great character artist, um, but also knowing how and being good at those other things, there's only a certain amount of time in a day in your life. You can't be a rock star at all of those things. Early on in my career, I was, before I got my first job. By the way, are you guys guessing how many rejections I got before I landed my first job? Guess, guess, guess. How many rejections did Brendon get before he landed his first video game job? Thanks, Jordan. 8. Definitely not 8. It's a little low. Just gonna say 8's a little low. I was saying something. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So, having and being good at multiple disciplines that most large studios don't have people that are that cross discipline, I think is a little much to ask. I think in smaller companies, like indie and that kind of stuff, I think it's okay to to ask for rudimentary experience in that stuff because you may wear more hats as a smaller team, but especially for AAA studios, 12. Nope, keep going higher, way higher. 33. Nope, higher. I'll give you guys one more guess. Okay, let's see how that looks. It's starting to look more like Bones. 54. It was 82. 82 no's. 82. 82. That's how many no's I got before I got my first chance. you have to keep going. You have to keep going. Yeah. But then, sometimes it takes forever to get that ball rolling. But then when it does, if you can keep making it work, and within a handful of years, I just got the opportunity to be a lead character artist. If you get in, do the work, and make good work, and you make good decisions, and you're a good team player and stuff. Those opportunities will happen eventually. But the thing is you gotta know how to handle no's. I think maybe the hand is too big. I don't know. It's possible. There's possibilities. Yeah, I mean, and now look, like I was able to work on. I worked at Sony San Diego, and I touched a lot of different projects there. I worked on MLB The Show 2018. I really dipped my toes into Last of Us 2 while I was there. That there's a couple of other ones that I touched while I was there, and then I got a chance to come up and work for Visceral, working on the Star Wars game that got canceled a couple years ago, 3 years ago, Ragtag. Um, and then from there, I got to work on Avengers. Like you just got to keep at it. You know, tenacious tenacity, I like to call it. You just keep going. So I wouldn't worry about too much about um, no's or not being able to find your first gig. Just be out there, make awesome art. Like when I got my first gig at Sony San Diego, working on some pretty big projects. I didn't have any experience. I had like maybe some indie experience. That was about it. Let's see. I really hate these things. Really hate them. uh, what was the time period between the first no and the 82nd before you landed your first gig? Um, Let me be clear. I worked on a couple of like little like no pay indie jobs kind of in between there. So like I was like actually contributing to some projects and maybe like a couple little super dinky freelance things here and there. But yeah, it was about, let's see, I started again on my video game career in the end of 2013, and then it took me about three and a half years, about 3.5 years. Any advice for somebody who is beginning to wonder if it will ever happen? I think the biggest thing is just it takes a long time, and it takes a lot of work. Like other other fields that have this much work that comes along with like being good at what you do are like doctors and lawyers and like the those types of jobs that require a lot of like personal time to get better and do the things get better at the things that you want to do for a living. Um, what I'd say is make sure that the things that you want to do as a career, if you're wanting to do this, is something that you really really love doing, right? Something that like you kind of live, eat, and breathe. You think about, and you're like, oh, like there's been so many times when I'm laying in bed where I'm like, oh, you know what? Like, oh, what if I did that thing? Yeah, and then like, oh my gosh, what if I took this map and like baked it over here and try to do that, and then maybe an extra roughness pass, or like maybe a cavity map would work to kind of punch up those pores or something. Like just kind of even on your downtime you're kind of thinking about it. Like that helps with the patience. Um, but just being active in your community, having a really good or at least a good portfolio, that's really the things that help push. Um, Did I do that? Yeah, I could do that. Help get you those opportunities, right? But it's about, you know, it's about having the opportunity available, and then, are you prepared for that opportunity? Are you the right person for that opportunity? And patience is key. Patience is key to that. I waited quite a long time, but while I waited, I got better, and I was involved in the community, and yeah. By what I mean by being active in the community, um, well, let's say there's a couple of things, right? Digitally active. So, like, are you in forums? Are you posting a lot? Are you friends with other artists? Like, are you doing art competitions? Are you posting work on ArtStation? Are you, um, those types of things. Right. That's kind of what I mean by active in the community is connect with other artists um, that are doing the same similar things, right? Another thing that I did early on was I connected with whether it's like on LinkedIn, or joined some groups, some Facebook groups or something, that had lots of other kind of like-minded artists. Um, but then that's the digital side. So the other side of that is well, it's a little bit different in the world now because you can't really go to um, conventions. But if we weren't in a global pandemic, uh, my advice is go to ZBrush Summit, go to GDC, go to um, uh, Comic Con, right, and just kind of introduce yourself and talk with people, and be active in the physical realm as well, because it really makes a huge difference. Um, if we're looking to hire somebody, and I personally know like 6 awesome character artists, I'm like, it's much easier to you know reach out to them or think of them and be like, oh yeah, I know, what's his face, or I know, this girl, she's really really awesome, or she does this really really good, or this guy does this really awesome. Um, it helps. Not saying that that's your ticket, but it helps. All right. There's the other thing I was going to work on. I don't know. I don't know. I think I think it needs a lot more kind of happening in the background. All right. Maybe we'll make some bigger steps. Does that kind of make sense? So advice for is it ever going to happen? Just just do what you love doing, and keep going, and be active, and be patient. It's something will eventually happen. Do you get any hand pains? Ooh, yeah. Ooh, that's a good question. I haven't really talked much about that one. Uh, I yes, I do. I do quite a bit. I'm 40 now. 40. Jesus, I'm 40. Ugh. Uh, so yeah, I tend to get kind of like hand cramps every once in a while, or like uh some numbness in my like pinky or my ring finger. Um, if that happens, I try to use my stand-up desk or use a ergonomic mouse. I actually switched to one of these. Let's see if I can actually pull it out. One of these guys. I don't know if you can see it. But that's just like you hold it this way, like that. That one's helped out quite a bit in the past. I have no idea what I'm doing back here. I have no idea. Maybe I should start focusing on the character again. What do you guys think? I love the questions though. Those questions are really good. Yeah, it does kind of look like an iron, doesn't it? I don't know. It will just we'll just do a little something. Oh God. Oh, that's why. Okay. Let's do auto groups. We'll just grab my widget. We'll do control click, and then we'll do split on mask points. There we go. Now we can redynamesh that guy. Yeah, maybe what I'll do real quick is just put some alphas on this guy, and we'll see if we can at least try to kind of get some kind of feeling of rocks and stuff. Let's grab that guy. Let's redynamesh that guy. Um, Another thing I try to do is use clay polish. Clay polish can give you some nice, cool little edges, kind of for free, which is nice. Good. The tips are tips and tricks. Tips and tricks. It's all about the tips and tricks, as my buddy Gareth used to say. Maybe we'll grab trim dynamic and just do. Ooh, trim dynamic. I like. I like it. What kind of character portfolio would give someone the edge to land a job at Crystal Dynamics? Um, Good question. I sometimes kind of go back and forth on, uh, you know, does it do you have like fan art or like do you have some of the things that are um, relevant to the content that a particular studio makes? I think yes, that is important. So like if you want to work for Naughty Dog, you know, I think yes, you would probably need some kind of I wouldn't say fan art, but like something that is in the style of something similar that they do. So like make a really good head sculpt with really good hair, um, like a hair mesh, right? Awesome game hair, and then really lifelike regular casual clothes, right? That's a great piece for getting and being more relevant to somebody like Naughty Dog, right? So I think so. In general, what I would do is if I was going to restart with my current skills, say okay, wipe everything off my portfolio, and I don't have a job right now, and I don't have a resume. Start with the skills that I have. What would I build first? Jesus, there's so many things that you could build, right? Um, but I think the bigger question is what are the five studios that you want to work for, right? Do you want and then do you want to do stylized work, or do you want to do more realistic work, or do you want to do a blend of stylized and realistic? Right? I think those are three big, huge categories that you really have to decide on early, right? So let's say I wanted to work um, for Crystal Dynamics. What would I? First off, I would look at what they have made, right? What are the games that they've made? Well, Tomb Raider. Okay, so what style is Tomb Raider? It's realistic, kind of non fantasy, realistic humans, and good clothes with good materials. So I would focus on whatever I'm going to put in my portfolio into that category, right? But if I wanted to work for Blizzard, would I do that same thing? Would I work on that same content? No, I would work on something very stylized, right? And then you're like, well, am I more of a Diablo guy, or am I more of a Overwatch guy? Those those things you kind of have to direct yourself towards the content that you want to do, right? So while having things in your portfolio that shows that you can do different things, it's also equally and probably more important that your portfolio immediately says what you do well and what you can be hired for, right? So if you look at my portfolio I think says I do realistic with a little bit of stylized to it, a little bit um, with kind of with creature work. But I also, I do materials. I do, uh, you know, sculpts. I do um, game res mesh. And show those types of things. And my portfolio is perfect, but you kind of get the idea. Um, so I would pick the top five places that you would want to work, take a look at their content, and then start working on content like that, right? Because if you have if you have Blizzard style work in your portfolio, but you want to work for Naughty Dog, like you're like, all right, this is really cool art, but it's not like anything that we do, so it's hard to choose you because your portfolio doesn't necessarily show that you can do the work that we're asking you to do. Does that kind of make sense? I'm so off tangent at the moment. Let's look for brushes here. Let's see if I can just find some rock brushes just to let's see what I got. I got anything? Patterns. Um, what about my third party stuff? Makes good sense. Okay, good. Sometimes I kind of go off on tangents and okay, good. All right, let's see. What is XMD? I would check out XMD if you guys haven't. XMD's got Michael Dunham got a lot of great brushes in there. Let's see if I have any just good rock stuff. Scales, dragon. I really haven't gone through enough of this stuff. There's some 1920. Sweet, that's exactly rocks. I don't know. I feel like sometimes you could just peruse through all your brushes and just not work. And you're like, oh shit, that one's cool. Let's see if I got any rock ones in here. Let's go back up. Let's see if I just got something. Premium, all brushes, custom brushes. I think I have some in here. There's orbs crack. Yeah. Here we go. Orb hammered. This one. This one's probably good. And of course, this is got a little bit more stylized stuff, but it may work for this. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a look at the resolution, How do you see your workflow process changing in the upcoming technology like Unreal 5 engine? It's tough to say. You have to be really careful about new technology that comes out because the AAA games are so heavily optimized to get like the most amount of performance out of the best art. You know what I mean? So it's really it's tough to look at that demo and go, oh yeah, oh man, I'm not gonna have to do any topology work anymore. That's just not it, that's not true. We'll definitely have to do topology work still. Um, I mean, it is when you're kind of doing a lot more realistic style work, um, you really have to stay up with uh, with technology. Um, because things are always changing. And if you don't kind of adapt to the changing technology, you could really quickly easily get left behind. So I try to kind of um, keep my ear out, my eye out for new things that are coming up. You know, I try to do that quite a lot. But I don't think we're ever gonna get out of the realm of having to optimize uh, your meshes. There's no way out of that. So like when people say, "Oh, you're not gonna have to, you just throw all your ZBrush stuff in there," you're like, "Nah, man, that's not. It's a great pipe dream, but that's not gonna happen. Like you're still gonna have to know how to. Let's see if we have any rock ones in here. You're gonna have to know how to make good topology still and good materials. And you still have to make those decisions about uh, you know what materials you're going to use and how many draw calls or how many texture sets that you're going to use. Come on, you got anything in here? Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. It's all just noise stuff. I guess we could. Not really the rocks that I want, but I don't know. We'll just try one of these. See what that's feeling like. It's like rock, but I don't know. I think it's got a long way to go. Let's get back to the character. I think I've futzed around with this a little bit too much at the moment. Maybe what we'll do just before we kind of wrap up on that is let's try to get a little bit more info into the seat. Let's see what else. Hey, we got a crash. All right. How do you see your work? Okay, that's that one. How long did it take to learn all the ins and outs of ZBrush? Seems like it's a massive software. Any suggestions on where to focus first? Yeah. The first part is I don't even know all the ins and outs of ZBrush. Um, it's so I wouldn't say complicated. It has so many ins and outs that the way that I learned how to do things and the way that I do things can easily be vastly different from the next person, which is awesome because it gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes down to how you do things. The downside is there's a lot of ways to do things. The good side is there's a lot of ways to do things, but the bad side is there's a lot of ways to do things. um, it's not really a massive software. I think one of the big things to learn right away is just like your navigation, and how tools work, how subtools work, that kind of stuff. I would look up Michael Pavlovich. He's also a streamer on ZBrush Live. He does a lot of great kind of beginner tutorials and stuff that are mostly for free. So I would just look there. Let's see who else does stuff. Z Classroom is basically where I learned the beginning of ZBrush. Um, that's another great free resource. And then just go through a couple tutorials and kind of get the idea. I think probably the first things that you want to do is navigation, know the difference between tools and subtools and how they work, how your undo history works per subtool, learn masking, and learn polygroups. Those like 4 or 5 things are like the very basics that if you don't know them, it's incredibly frustrating trying to do things if you don't kind of get the whole idea behind it. Like the whole like if I hit T and get out of edit mode, um, switch, right? And you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to like oh Jesus, how how do I what do I do? What do I do? Oh, you're like, oh, hit edit again. Okay, cool. Now, oh wait, how do I? And you just kind of grind to a halt. You're like, well, it's kind of a ZBrush initially was a 2.5D paint program that kind of like took off as a 3D sculpting program. So like you can drop 3D things onto your canvas. Let's go out of edit. That's fine. And then you've got those types of things. Then you hit edit again. You're like, well, I don't. Well, crap. What do I do now? Oh, okay. Go to document, hit new document. But I don't want to. Do I change it? Do I save it? I don't want to. So, no. But I know that in the tool that I have selected, all of the subtools that I have there are still there. I just have to drop it back onto the canvas again, right? And just drop it back onto the canvas, then hit edit, right? And then I'm back at it. And then all of um, my history is still there. It's not still there because I just crashed, but it was. And it's per subtool, right? That's cool. Yep, Control N to clear the canvas. Yep. Navigation interface is tough in the very beginning. Like uh, right click is your friend. I think my biggest problem was that if you're just left clicking, you have to click out here, like not on, and then your rotation point is different, right? You're like, oh, okay, well if I have to rotate, I rotate out here. But if you use right click, I have right click mapped to the first one on my pen. So I can click anywhere if I just right click. So if I right click and move, I can click anywhere. And then it moves where my pivot is. Like when I click on something, that's my pivot right there. And then I can pivot over here. Oh, I can pivot here. Right? So like just getting navigation down is huge. All right. Let's what time is it? I feel like I've talked for like an hour and a half. So I pretty much have. Also, if you're new to ZBrush, try not to be intimidated by my UI setup. Basically, I just pull everything from the subtool menu or the tool menu out onto my desktop here. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. I think we're gonna get back to um, let's work on the cloth a little bit. So these ones initially I did in um, Marvelous Designer. Oops. My hotkeys are gone. So hotkeys load. Nope. That's not it. Let me grab my hotkeys list real quick. Okay. Store. Okay, cool. So there we go. So this I did really quickly in Marvelous Designer, and then just brought it in and then just resculpted over it. And the same thing I did for these ones. I haven't changed anything on these guys, so you can see they are fairly raw. Okay. Um, so what I'd like to do is, so I added these guys. I'm gonna start doing a little bit of smaller little details in here. Okay. So when I'm doing cloth, I want to think about where is the tension being pulled from, right? So like we've got one here, and then we've probably got one here, right? We got some softness through here, but we'll have a tension point here, and we'll have a tension point here. This one probably coming this way is a little bit more tension pulling than this one. So this one would be kind of less aggressive as this one and say this one. So let's just grab a standard here. Zero's okay. Let's see what that's doing. It's okay. How much time are you given to finish a character for production? It really depends on the character. If it's like an NPC that just has clothes, maybe it's a couple weeks. But um, if it's a fairly complicated character, it may take several months to do. All right, so I don't have enough topology here, and I don't really want to kind of step up. I guess I could step up more at 512. Let's see what it looks like if. Okay, so that's 512. Let's try 1024 just to see if it gives any. 1024. Um, as a general rule, for me, when you talk about the type of resolution, I just start off super low because it depends on how big um, your model is in ZBrush. So that will determine what resolution you're at. So in this particular case, we'll try 1024 and see if that does anything. So you see here, this is a kind of an interesting glitch in the matrix that has been before. So I was at 512, right? And then I changed it to 1024, and I tried redoing the Dynamesh, but it doesn't do anything. Sometimes all you have to do is just edit the surface a little bit. So if that ever happens, I just smooth the piece out real quick, and then redynamesh, and then it usually will be fine, and it will recalculate. See that? So even here, right? So there's nothing. This is the same as I had it, and then I changed it to 1024. It doesn't redynamesh, but all I have to do is change the surface somehow, in some way. Keep coming up with funky fly stuff, like every single day. I need more coffee. All right, so now I have a little bit more in here. Um, what I usually do when I up the res in Dynamesh, I usually will just do a quick clay polish. The thing about clay polish is it kind of cleans up the little like pixelation that happens, right? So like this little stuff in here. Um, because it picks that up from the lower res, right? So if I do a clay polish, it kind of cleans those up a little bit. The thing you have to be careful with clay polish is that it leaves a little mask on things. So like if I try to do something, you see how you have like this little line in here? That's because there's a little mask on it. So just make sure that you clear whatever mask is there, and then now it works correctly. How is your approval process for your characters? Do you ever get conflicted feedback? Like some people like certain part of others, and others, yeah, how do you move forward? It's hard to please everybody. Uh, that's kind of, that's question of the year, really. Typically, you have your art director who is kind of controlling uh, the overall look and feel and approvals and stuff. But then you have your lead, which may be something they may have conflicting ideas, which is totally normal. Everybody has different ideas. So typically, what I do is if I'm just looking for um, a quick update, you know, uh, where I'm like, oh hey, this, what do you get? This shoulder armor or something, right? Uh, then I'll go and ask my lead if it's small little stuff. Um, but if say you have a larger milestone of your particular project that you're working on, uh, then the art director is probably a good bet as well. But I almost always go to the lead first, and then once lead is kind of bought off and the lead feels good, then uh, either both of you or you as the artist can go and talk to the art director. But I think every studio is a little bit different, so you just kind of got to feel it out a little bit. But usually, for smaller stuff, I will go to the character lead, get feedback. But then larger milestone stuff, then you go to the art director. Um, it's hard to please everybody. Yes, that's the thing you have to kind of take in context is that everybody's kind of got a little bit different of idea. But I think if you work on unification and you're ultimately following your lead and art director, then you should be good. Again, I'm doing small, medium, and large shapes. Right? That's what I'm trying to focus on. Everything small, medium, large. Right? And not even just in positive shapes, but in negative spaces as well, right? So I'm looking here, I'm like, okay, it's a large area from here to here. Medium, small, 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 medium, medium, medium. Okay, those so things start feeling a little bit more awkward when you kind of have the same repeating shapes. So from here to here to here to here, these are all very similar, right? So it starts feeling me. Starts feeling me. So then, oh well, maybe we can actually bring this in just a little bit and kind of make this, you know, one of the smaller shapes in there, right? All right. So now you've got, up here you've got small, medium, large, right? Large, large, small, medium, right? So you start kind of like breaking up those shapes, and you start kind of looking at all of those shapes, right? So here's another one, right? Look at this shape here, right? This shape, this shape, and then this shape. Oops. And then this shape, right? So like on the silhouette, you also want to take a look and have nice large, medium, small breakups, right? So like this is small, this one's big, this one's medium, this one's medium. Actually feels okay, right? So you always want to be looking for those things like all over, right? So here's another example, like the size of each one of these, right? The size of this fold versus the overall size of this fold versus the overall size of this fold. Of course, it all depends on what kind of material that you're also doing. So to usually come back again to Marvelous Designer with ZBrush pieces for more realism. Um, if I have some kind of big flowy pieces, for me sometimes it is easier to go into Marvelous Designer and just kind of like get something quickly blocked out, and then I'll just bring it in and sculpt on top of it. Right? If I can get these shapes for cheap, just by going into Marvelous Designer, and I don't have to come up with that, it's usually a bigger payoff. This one, this one is kind of poking through there, so let's grab my move brush. Just push that down in. Uh-oh, what happened? Oh no, it's okay, just hit new. We good, we good. All right, we got about 20 minutes left, so if you have more questions, definitely feel free to chime those bad boys in. Do artists ever tip their toes into quest writing? Maybe in um, smaller like indie, but in larger studios usually no, unless that's something that that you're trying to kind of do as a profession. Um, a lot of times, if you have a good company that you're working for, and you know you kind of voice that you want to kind of move in that direction, then they may give you a chance to do that. But typically no. Okay, let's work on some details on this guy. Before I kind of move out of like low res stage for something like this, I almost always duplicate it and then just save that stage. I think this is okay. What does Dynamesh look like? No. Let's take a look at 1024. What does that look like? Oops. A little bit better. What does 2048 look like? Oops. A little bit better. Let's do that. We'll just sculpt up some details in this guy for fun before we call it today. Just round these edges a little bit. What? Yeah, no problem, Pepper. Happy to help. I'm a big proponent of live work. Um, it's really it's beneficial, I think, to be able to kind of interact with people in real time, as well as being able to kind of see people work in real time. I love tutorials just as much as anybody else, but for me, tutorials don't show you like the normal problems that you run into, you know? Like you don't really see that. You don't see like, oh, that thing didn't dynamesh. Why didn't that thing dynamesh, right? you don't get that like live feedback. And for me, one of the reasons that I stream is to be able to kind of provide live work, and a lot of times you don't really get to see all the things that happen, um, behind the scenes. Like, oh, like how's that problem solved? Or if an unexpected problem arises, like how do you fix that? So being able to kind of show that stuff and work through that stuff in real time, for me, it's one of the big reasons why I stream in general. Um, and also just show people like it takes a long time to make good stuff, especially like realistic characters. Oh my god, like there's so much work that goes into it. It's crazy. Sharpen mask, blur mask. Nope. All right, let's do this. So maybe we're gonna take that and then we'll just do. Let's flip that. Let's go to deformation. Let's do inflate balloon, deflate. Whoa! Not that much. Whoa! Not that much. Let's try inflate -1. There we go. Something like that. Let's see. Let's turn off view mask. And let's see what that looks like. Is that enough visual border? Yeah, I think so. Maybe a little bit bigger. A touch, a scotch. Of course, the downside of that, doing things in real time, is that it does take forever. It's definitely not as quick as a tutorial is. If you're, I think both things have a place though. It's interesting because there's so many times when I think of concept artists and they make these super awesome line drawings. They got such great uh, control over their strokes, and every stroke is a master genius and stuff. And then you kind of start watching people how they actually do work, and you realize that it really demystifies a lot of things and validates your own imperfection sometimes. There's some concept artists that I know that like that have a really hard time drawing a straight line. You know, like sometimes you're like, oh well, I want this curve to like be like this. You're like, well, that curve kind of sucks. You're like, okay, well, what about that curve? Nope. What about that curve? Nope. What about that curve? Nope. What about that curve? There we go. You know, it's I don't know. It's funny. It's one of those things, I guess. Grow mask, sharpen mask. There we go. Looks okay. And then we'll do inflate -1, maybe -1.5. Let's try -2. -2. Sure. And then maybe we can do like a little bit of polish. Yeah. Switch that up. Maybe just a touch of polish. Sure. All right. I got a little thing. Maybe now what we want to do is do some skulls in here or something. You know? Sometimes my skulls suck. Maybe we'll just do a design. Let's just do a design. All right, so then maybe we'll just do like let's turn on a lazy mouse on my mask brush, and then we'll do lazy radius. Okay. Turn that off. I just clean this up a little bit. Turn that off. There we go. I don't know. We would do something like that. It's just different ways that you can do little. Then maybe we'll do. You can start making like little details and stuff like this. So like on this one, maybe we'll just go grab back to gold. We'll do mRGB, fill object, and then go back. There we go. Start making some designs and such. The nice thing is that it's still Dynamesh, so I can just re-Dynamesh it real quick and keep going. What would be my dream project to work on? I think there's a couple of projects that I really want to work on at some point. I really want to work on a God of War at some point. Um, I would really like to work on a published Star Wars game. I was working on Project Ragtag at Visceral, and that was like I was like, oh my god, I'm actually working on Star Wars. It's so awesome. And then the whole project got canceled, and that was really tough. That was a tough one. But I mean, honestly, working on an original Avengers game, like high res, realistic style Avengers game, like that's to me like I'm working on a dream project right now. It's awesome. Weird, well, there we go. That's definitely one of them. So Star Wars, Avengers. I would love to work on God of War. Uh, Destiny for a little while was one of the ones that I really kind of wanted to work on. Uh, that'd be cool. It's definitely not as high as like a God of War or another Star Wars. Like when Was it Fallen Order that Respawn did? Man, when that came out, I was like, oh man, that was so cool. Would have loved to have been a character artist on that team. But like just the kind of those big IPs, I think it'd be fun to be part of. Uh, but you know where I'm at now, my gosh, like it is a dream to be able to work on uh, Avengers characters. Freaking work on our own Avengers designs for a massive game. Like that's unreal, man. So again, I'm trying to do small, medium, large. So I got small, I got medium, medium, and then large here. Maybe we can kind of push this back towards a medium. Yeah, the mech junk. God, I did that one a long time ago. That was fun though. I had a lot of fun on that one. I think one of my big things was being able to do the explanation videos and stuff on that one, and kind of showing uh, how I go about baking the maps and retopologizing and that kind of stuff. That was a lot of fun to do. So I also don't want to do too much, right? So we're going to think of frequency of detail here. Maybe we'll just get rid of this one. That one feels like it could be a little bit much, you know. Maybe. All right, so now we kind of got this tension happening where the villain from 300. Oh, the second movie of 300, right? Kind of looks like her a little bit, right? It mixed with that and what was the Loki's sister, the I think it was from Ragnarok, the Thor Ragnarok, Thor and Loki's sister. She kind of had that big headdress type of thing. Download? What? Download what? Let's do Hella. Did I say Hella? I say oh Helna. Isn't it? No wait. Was it Hella or is it Helna? Hella. I always think about California lingo when I say Hella. Hella, bro. Ha ha. Totally, bro. Hella. It's hella dope. Okay, let's just change it. There we go. Now we start kind of getting a little bit more frequency of detail in here, which is good, right? So we got like a large space here that doesn't have anything, and then we've got large, medium, smalls. We've got medium, medium, large, small. Like it's starting to feel pretty good. Maybe we'll have this kind of curve in just a little bit so it feels like it lays on those ribs a little bit more. Hella. Oh, okay. I think it just threw me off when you did the two L's. I was like, dude, that's hella sick. So I want to kind of get this. I want to get this line here to really sell that it's sitting against her rib there, and then falling after. All right. So what I the other thing that I try to do is I try to design the shapes from all sides so that each rotation that you look at it, it's interesting, right? You don't have a certain rotation where it's like kind of blah. Like this one right here, like it's just kind of a straight line. It's kind of boring. Saul, what's up, buddy? So maybe from this angle we'll kind of swoop it back a little bit, and then leave this as the kind of the pinch point where it really like it falls and is laying on the rib, and then when the rib ends, it kind of falls back this way. Oops. All right, so it has this kind of, you could tell it's leaning on something here, and that now from this rotation doesn't really, isn't very flattering. So maybe we can pull it out more this way so that, right, in this rotation you could see it falls here, and then from here it kind of comes down and then falls that way, and then from here you kind of get the same thing. So I try to make sure that I have dynamic shapes, and the shapes are doing the things and saying the story that I want it to from all angles. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's better. Thanks, Soul. She's got a long way to go. Such a long way to go. All right, let's do a little bit of details on this piece like we did this one, and then actually, you know what? No, we have to call it. We have to call it, ladies and gents. We've we tried doing some things with the chair here. I don't know if I'm gonna stick with that design, but probably won't. It's kind of lame. But we'll keep moving. We'll keep kind of cranking on this. I think by next time I'm going to try to change. I think I'm going to change the pose. I think I'm going to go kind of crazy and change the pose. I feel like her pose is right because when you're looking at the character holistically again, right, the pose also says something about the character, right? So if I'm this pose says something different than a different pose does. I feel like she's still a little bit stiff, and not really like kind of arrogant. It's more about she's very nonchalant right now, like doesn't care kind of pose, and kind of a little bit bland. Uh, what I really want to do is get a little bit more attitude in the pose. So I'm thinking probably I have a couple of different poses here that I'm thinking about. So like there's this pose that might be kind of cool, but there's quite a bit of change that I would have to do with this one. So that's a possibility. I like that you got one arm up and like the wrist is kinked down. That one or the Sharon Stone pose minus the smirk. I like how like her arm is kind of back here, and it's like a nonchalant like I don't you know I guess it says something more along the lines of confidence. Um, those are just some of the things that I'm thinking about changing the pose to. Because right now it's kind of like you see those poses, then you look at this pose and you're like, eh. It feels a little lackluster at the moment. So, but I don't want to do the whole like nudity thing, skin textures on stream. So I think I'm gonna do that pose off stream, and then by the time next stream comes, we may have something a little bit different. But that will be for next time, which probably will be next month. I'm busy. busy, 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 busy. But yeah, it was awesome. I do definitely miss doing some streams. I would like to do more. I just have to find the time. So with that, I hope you guys had fun. Hope you guys learned a couple things. But most of all, I hope you were inspired to go make your own stuff and make cool stuff, and keep working on those dreams and make more cool stuff. And after that, make better cool stuff because you learned from that one uh, onto the next project. So make cool stuff. And be sure to stick around and follow the Pixologic channel here on Twitch. There's a lot of other great artists that stream on here as well. So, and if you would like to go back and find any previous streams that I've done personally or any of the other ZBrush Live folks have done, you can go to zbrushlive.com and you can look at all the artist page and find their previous streams. Also, you can go to the Pixologic YouTube channel, and they have all of the post streams there as well too. I think that's about it. Stay tuned. Lots of fun, awesome stuff coming up, and I will check you guys soon. Be safe out there, and we'll see ya.